Good morning, FCC Covington. I believe it should be the Sunday after Christmas, so Merry Christmas. I hope you all had a wonderful and safe holiday. My name is Kaitlin Thompson. I have been serving previously as a global mission intern in Boca Chica, Dominican Republic. I've been serving with Global Ministries, which is a joint ministry between the Disciples of Christ and the United Church of Christ. And this morning I will be sharing with you a little bit about our ministry partner, Caminante, located in Boca Chica, Dominican Republic. So Caminante literally translates to one who walks the path, from the verb caminar, to walk. So Caminante is the walker. Let me get my slides. First, I want to touch on some core values of Global Ministries. So our core values and mission are presence, mutuality, community, justice, and peace. So one of the really awesome things about Global Ministries' model of mission is we've pushed really hard to move away from a traditional model of mission that really focuses on saviorism and this idea of going in to work with communities that need us. And instead, we work on building sustainable partnerships with ministries that are already happening in communities around the world. And we build community with them, and we work with them as equal partners. And so my hope is that throughout this presentation, you will see all of these core values represented in our long-standing partnership with Caminante. So a quick introduction about me. Like I said, my name is Kaitlin. I got my Bachelor in Science in Social Work, Bachelor of Arts in Latin American, Latino, Latina, and Caribbean Studies, as well as my Master in Social Work, all of those from Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, love and honor. My home congregation is First Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in Middletown, Ohio. And as I've mentioned before, my partner placement was Caminante Proyecto Educativo, which just means education project. Quick history of the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is located on the island of Hispaniola, which is an island that they share with the country of Haiti. Haiti takes up about 1/3 of the western portion of the island, and the DR takes up about 2/3 of the eastern portion. In Hispaniola, in Spanish is Española, because it was the first island that the Spanish arrived to in the New World. And the Dominican Republic is the original Spanish colony, and they were the first European colony in the Western Hemisphere. And that colonial history continues to play an important role in the culture of the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic declared independence from Spain in 1821. And then shortly after that, they were occupied by Haiti for a period of time, and then they declared independence from Haiti in 1838, and this will be the modern Independence Day that is celebrated now. There was also a brief US occupation from 1916 to 1924. Some stats. The Dominican Republic is 18,815 square miles, so it's not very big compared to when we think of some big states that we have in the US. It's pretty small. You can get anywhere that you need to go within about 6 to 8 hours, which is really nice. Their population is 10.63 million. Remember how I said that Haiti takes up 1/3 of the island, and yet Haiti actually has a population of around 11 million. Despite having such a smaller land mass, they have a much more dense population than in the Dominican Republic, where, contrary to popular belief, it's not all just beaches and waterfalls. There's a lot of farmland, and agriculture is really big on the island as well. The official language is Spanish with a very interesting local dialect that is not too dissimilar from the islands of Puerto Rico and Cuba. And they are 48% Catholic, but you will see that other 52% being made up of a lot of Protestant Christianity. They have a couple big names in the Caribbean. They have the highest mountain in the Caribbean, which is Pico Duarte. And they also have the first cathedral of the Americas, which is the Basilica Cathedral of St. Mary of the Incarnation, which is more commonly just referred to as the first cathedral of the Americas. And as I've been instructed by my friend who is an architect, this is the only truly Gothic cathedral that was constructed within the Gothic time period in the Western Hemisphere. So it's very unique and it's very beautiful. It's situated in the colonial zone, full of beautiful colonial architecture and lots of history. About a third of the population lives on less than $1.25 a day. It's very important to point out the disparity in that poverty, though. The rural poverty rate in the Dominican Republic is 3 times the urban poverty rate. A large portion of those 10 million people live in about 5 big cities in the Dominican Republic. And so you see a lot of the wealth is concentrated there. And there's a lot of poverty in those rural areas, those kind of farming communities. So Boca Chica is just a little bit outside of Santo Domingo. It is about 45 minutes by guagua, which is what the Dominicans call the local buses, or a small bus, which will just take you around the town you're already in, is a guaguita. And so it's about, I always think of it as the airport is kind of the halfway point. So you have Santo Domingo, you have the airport, you have Boca Chica. So very close to the airport. Boca Chica, the name refers to a small port because it used to be a really big shipping port. Boca Chica has a population of about 123,000. It's a mid-sized city for the Dominican. It's split into kind of 2 regions. So you have Boca Chica kind of proper, and that is where all of the resorts are. That is where the majority of tourists are going to be located. And then you have Boca Chica Andres, which is where kind of more of the locals live. So that has a lot of houses, a lot of small neighborhoods. And so those 2 areas are next to each other, but kind of separate in their own way as well. Boca Chica is known for tourism. If I counted correctly, there are 3 large resorts and lots of small hotels all throughout the city. They have a large population of Italian and also Venezuelan immigrants living in the city. So there is a very rich blend of culture and language and food, lots of good food. So a history of Caminante. Caminante was founded in the late 90s by Sister Denise Pichardo. And Sister Denise is a nun, and she was sent to Boca Chica in the 90s to kind of assess the city and see what the needs of the city were and how the Catholic Church could serve the city. And so Sister Denise noticed that there were a lot of boys on the beach during the day who were offering to shine shoes, or they might be selling Johnny cakes, which is this kind of bread product you'll see here in the picture, which they would sell to tourists on the beach. And so she gathered some of these boys together and she said, why aren't you in school? And she started to understand the informal economy of Boca Chica and how lots of these boys were on the beach selling goods to try to help support their families. And she pulled these boys together and talked to them and mentored them and tried to understand how she could build a program that would help get these kids back in school. And so of that original program, you see that still living on in the Niños en la Situación de la Calle program, which is literally just boys in a street situation. So here we have a picture of some boys in the program. And this program, the boys get together every day and they have lunch. Lunch is typically donated by a resort down the street from our main office in Boca Chica. And they'll walk down and pick up those lunches, bring them back to Caminante. The boys will all eat lunch together. It's a time for them to kind of unwind, spend time in fellowship. There's also some mentoring that happens in this space, as well as some informal education. Because again, a lot of these boys are not in school, or at least not in school full time. We've also developed a sister program, and the sister program is called Niñas Primeras, or Girls First. And it takes its name from the Girls First Fund, which is a nonprofit that works in many different countries with the goal of reducing child marriage and teen pregnancy, which is a big issue in the Dominican Republic that a lot of groups are working right now to try to help promote helping girls stay in school. And so this is an awesome program. I was heavily involved with this program while I was there. And it had so many moving parts. So we worked with the girls on empowerment. We worked with the girls on understanding their rights to have an education, their rights to their bodily autonomy. We worked with them on topics of self-love and understanding healthy relationships. We worked with them on sex education and pregnancy prevention. We worked with them. One of my favorite activities, before a local election, we brought in candidates for that election, and the girls held a town hall with the candidates, just for the girls, so that they could ask the candidates about their plans for the city. Even though most of our girls in the program were not old enough to vote, a handful of them were 18, so they were voting in the upcoming election. But even the girls who weren't voting in the upcoming election were so involved in this town hall, and they felt such a strong sense of service to their town and really feeling the need to have their voices heard. And the candidates responded really well to it, and it was a really awesome activity for our girls. We also partner with La Casona, which is a local trade school, which is in Boca Chica, Andres. And here's a picture of me teaching English to our cooking and culinary class. So just some basic English. Here, anyone who is a Dominican citizen can take classes for free. And these are kind of more like trade school classes, so culinary arts, carpentry, woodworking. There's so many programs. And they're generally very short classes. So you can take multiple classes back to back, or if you just want one class, and then they'll earn a certificate at the end of that. La Casona is just a local branch of a larger national university. And so that university has larger locations in the capital, but it also has a lot of satellite campuses around the island. We also have the homework rooms, which are near and dear to Global Ministries. They are sponsored by Global Ministries. And these homework rooms are an alternative educational space. And so a lot of kids wind up in these homework rooms for a lot of different reasons. A lot of the children in these homework rooms are still learning Spanish as a second language. For many of these children, Haitian Creole is the language that is spoken at home. And there might be reasons due to citizenship status or a document status that they're not able to be in a proper school. It could be because their Spanish is not ready for them to be immersed in a local school. And so these homework rooms serve as an alternative educational space. And there's so many cool things that happen here. So lots of tutoring, older students kind of taking younger students under their wing. There are teachers who are working here and volunteering here who are still in university studying to become teachers. Lots of games happen at the homework rooms, which is super fun. I still think after 6 months, I didn't know the rules to all of the games that we played, but I think I was starting to catch on. I was starting to get pretty decent at baseball, mostly because we played with a large piece of wood, so it was much wider than an actual bat, much higher chances of actually making contact. But as you can see, we've got some kids playing Scrabble, we've got some kids running. I worked with the kids kind of at the other end of the spectrum. I would take them after they'd been out playing and had their energy all up, and I worked with them on meditation and mindfulness. So some kids would also find themselves in the homework rooms because they had some learning disabilities that prevented them from succeeding in a traditional classroom. So a lot of these children displayed some ADD symptoms. And so we were able to work together on this topic of kind of monitoring our own bodies and understanding where our emotions live in our bodies. And we worked a lot on calming our bodies so that our brains were ready to learn. So you can see some pictures here of the kids meditating. Some of them are just taking a nap, but a lot of them, I promise, were meditating. And there at the top, I brought some essential oils one morning, and we passed the essential oils and smelled them. Eucalyptus was by far the big winner. Eucalyptus oil was a fan favorite. Lavender was the one that no one liked except me, but that's okay. Some other programs that Caminante offers, psychological services. So there's a psychologist on staff, and she will work with maybe kids who are involved in other programs, and it's come to Caminante's attention that they could use some help. Or sometimes there are referrals coming from divorce and custody disputes that the courts will refer them to Caminante's psychologist. And she does play therapy as well as talk therapy with these young ones, and also some family therapy. There are also career services that happen at Caminante. There was a really cool program that's since wrapped up. I think the grant expired, but it was working with women who had been teen mothers, but now the kids were old enough to be in school, and helping them to build a career while the children were at school. So helping them to find what it was they wanted to do and what it was that felt fulfilling to them, and understanding what education would be necessary to go into that role, and some mentoring to get them prepared to move into that role. So that was a really cool, really rewarding program, even though the grant was somewhat brief. Also, in the summer, Caminante shifts into kind of summer camp mode. So during the school year, it follows kind of a school and after school model. A lot of schools in the Dominican Republic are half day. So sometimes we'll have a different group of kids in the morning versus the afternoon, just based on which session they're in at their local school. In the summer, however, it shifts to a summer camp, and it's kind of based on the kids' neighborhood. And that's when it gets really fun. It still has an educational aspect, of course, but from what I've heard, there are lots of trips to the beach to go swimming. There are lots of soccer games, lots of baseball games, lots of fun. Unfortunately, this past summer, these did not happen because of COVID. During the COVID time, a lot of Caminante services have had to shift, but it's been really cool to see how Caminante has shifted that. So by and far, WhatsApp has been a big savior for Caminante. So our girls groups moved entirely to WhatsApp. So just group video chats once a week to continue this time of fellowship and to give them that space to connect, even though most of them were isolated in their family homes. The boys program continued to offer lunch, although the resorts were no longer donating food. We had food donated from the community and Caminante staff members cooking and making large meals for the boys. Luckily at La Casona, we have a large outdoor area, and in the Dominican Republic, it never gets cold, so you can always eat outside. So lots of room for social distancing so that those boys can continue to have that source of a steady lunch as well as social interaction. So the cool thing about Caminante is even though it is designed with children in mind, they provide support for the whole community of all ages, starting with the littlest one when we offer parenting classes for newly arrived little friends, and all the way to our parenting classes. Several of our parenting groups are actually grandparenting groups. They're grandparents who are raising grandchildren. So in that way, we serve the family unit across the life cycle. And this is regardless of language or citizenship status. So services can be offered in Haitian Creole when necessary, or in Spanish, of course. So the community of Boca Chica is really diverse, and it's a really interesting, tight-knit little community, and Caminante just exists to serve that whole community, and it has done a fantastic job of that over the past several decades. So if you're interested in getting involved with global ministries, one of our best options, I think, if you like to travel, is our people-to-people pilgrimages. These are on pause for the time being, understandably. But if you're interested in getting involved with a people-to-people pilgrimage after COVID, then you can reach out to our lovely people-to-people director, Lorna, and she can help you set up whether it's a youth group trip or a church trip, or maybe multiple churches from the same kind of region want to go. You can also become a global mission church, which is just a way of stepping up and saying, we want to stay connected with global ministries. We want to know what's going on with our partners around the world. We want to feel that connection to all of our brothers and sisters. If you want to do it on a smaller level, you can become a child and or elder sponsor. We do not currently have any child or elder sponsorships available in the area of the Dominican Republic, but we do have many in the region of Latin America, and we have them available in all of our regions. And lastly, educate and advocate. So educate yourself about the issues that are going on around the world, and then advocate for your brothers and sisters around the world. There's so many things happening, it's hard to keep up with all of them at once. So really, I encourage you to find something that you're passionate about, and really educate yourself on it and work to be an advocate for that. So thank you, gracias, Missy. And at this time, I'm going to open it up to any questions that we might have.
I'm going to be the person who questions you. So I have the privilege of knowing you have gone to the DR 3 times. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Technically, the one was extended.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. And you said, you have told me that your experience in the Dominican Republic has greatly formed your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I traveled to the Dominican Republic for the first time my second year of college. It was just kind of a random thing. I got an email from my academic advisor, and he was like, hey, people studying Latin American studies, you should go to the Dominican Republic on spring break. And I was like, Dominican Republic, what's that? And I did some Googling, and I was like, wow, this place is really pretty. And I had the free time over spring break, so I decided to go. I wasn't sure what to expect. It was my first time outside of the United States and Canada. And I just remember I was so scared, first of all. I was so nervous. And when the plane touched down in the Dominican Republic, I became so emotional and I just started crying. And the gentleman next to me on the plane was Dominican, and he and I had spent a good bit of the plane ride talking. And when the plane touched down and I was emotional, and he said, welcome and congratulations on whatever comes next. And I just remember being like, I don't know why I'm crying right now. I don't know if it's because I didn't sleep well last night, but I just knew, like, I just felt that like something big was happening. And I would say I kind of had the typical experience of growing up in the church, growing up in a very Christian family. We were at church every Sunday, usually more days than just Sunday. And I had gotten kind of stagnant in my faith in college. I was very connected with our youth programs in the Christian church in Ohio, and Camp Christian was a big thing to me. And then when I got to college, I was just a little bit lost. And then I went to the DR, and I just saw this kind of radical community love. I was in this really small town called Los Frailes, which is a little suburb on the eastern side of Santo Domingo. And a lot of the kids went to school and went to church together. So I got to see them in like both of those settings. And the biggest thing for me was just seeing a community where the love of Christ was just at the center of the community. Dominicans, in many Spanish cultures, but in the Dominican, it's very prevalent. When you say goodbye, you say, I'll see you. So you say, nos vemos. And then you say, si Dios quiere, which is if God wants. So I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll be back tomorrow if God wants. And I think that that's a really good way to look at how Dominicans keep it centered. You'll see cars that just have like God loves you painted on the back. Lots of like God bless this house, God bless this car, God bless this business signs everywhere you go. And just being somewhere where I felt like I could be so open and questioning of my faith, and lots of examples of even in places where, you know, money was tight, there were these people who just fully relied on God. And they were so happy. The Dominicans have such a happy culture. It's just very like, you know, don't wear your worries on your sleeve. Like, just take it to God, and like, just being sad isn't going to fix it. And so it's just such an uplifting culture, but it also, neighbors take care of neighbors. And there are no strangers in the Dominican Republic. It's just friends you haven't made yet. And that's true even with the tourists that come through Boca Chica. A lot of them will make friends with the locals because everyone is just so friendly, and it's just such a warm culture. And when I came back, it was all I could talk about. And I just immediately started counting down the days until I was going to go back. And it got me super passionate in my faith, being involved in the church on a local and a state level, but also just reinvesting in my relationship with God and my faith. And then I found myself in grad school, and we were getting to where the end was in sight, and my friends were starting to fill out job applications, and they were like, I'm gonna go work for a counseling agency, or I'm gonna go work at a hospital. And I was like, none of that feels right. Like, none of that, I don't know. And then I was like, I want to go back to the Dominican Republic. That's what I want to do. I want to go back to the DR, and I want to stay this time. And I reached out to Global Ministries, and they said, do you want to go to the DR? And I was like, yes, I want to go to the DR. And they were like, okay. And my experience working with Global Ministries has been wonderful. I've gotten the chance to connect with our partners in the Dominican Republic, as well as partners in Guatemala, and getting to have these kind of amazing conversations with spiritual leaders from different cultures, and people who've lived lives that are so different than mine, but really seeing how much we all have in common, especially within the walls of the church. We're all way more alike than we are different. Even if the way we worship looks a little different or it sounds a little different. One of the things I loved about the DR, church is loud. Church is really loud. Loud music, lots of yelling, lots of singing. It is such a joyful experience. And I think everyone should experience some form of worship that maybe is a little outside of your comfort zone, at least once in your life. Because it'll really change the way you look at worship and how you use your body and your soul to worship. So the DR has definitely changed my faith. It's changed my career path. It's a huge part of who I am. My friends back home always say, you can't talk about Kate without talking about the DR. And you can't talk to Kate without talking about the DR. And I think anyone who knows me knows that that is true. And I hope I've shown in my talking about it why that is true, and maybe encourage some other people to follow that pull.
Can you talk about some of the generosity that you experienced in the DR?
Yeah. So living in a communal culture is kind of wild. Growing up in the Midwest, I mean, I think the Midwest is probably as close to communal culture as you'll find in the United States. But we're still so individualistic. And one of the biggest things moving to the DR taught me was how to ask for help. Because I had finished grad school, I had worked really hard on my Spanish, I really felt like I had it together, and then all of a sudden I was in this new place, and like I didn't know where to go buy toothpaste. Like I needed help. And I had this wonderful family. I was living in their complex. My little apartment was part of their building. And I came day one, and they were like, welcome, we are your Dominican family. And some of them I never learned their actual name. They were just Tia, which is aunt, or Abuela, which is grandma. I also remember the first time I got sick. I'd been sick many times in my life. I'd gone away for college, so I knew how to take care of myself when I was sick. And so that was what I did. I was sick. I called the office and I was like, I'm really sick. I don't want to come in and get anyone else sick. And I stayed home and I heated up some Campbell's soup in the microwave and took care of myself. And when my Dominican family found out that I had been sick, they were so upset with me. And they said, you didn't tell us you were sick. And I was like, yeah, I didn't want you to worry about me. And they were like, we're your family. If we don't worry about you, who will? And I remember they said, if you didn't tell us that you were sick, who took care of you? And I said, I took care of myself. I made my own food. I fed myself. I'm 22 years old. I've gotten pretty good at it. And they were like, no, that's not how we do things here. When you're sick, your family takes care of you. And I was like, but I don't want to be a burden to you. I don't want you to have to take care of me. I'm a big girl. I can take care of myself. And they said, when you don't let us love you, it feels like you don't love us. So letting us take care of you and letting us love you is letting us know that you love us too. It's a two-way street. And that was just such a radical way to look at it. And the next time I got sick, I texted Mommy and I was like, Mommy, I'm sick. And she made the best chicken soup I have ever had. And I don't know why I did not tell them I was sick the other times, because that was a glorious chicken soup. Had some yuca in it. If you've never eaten yuca, you need to eat yuca, especially yuca fries. But yuca is kind of a delicacy in the DR. It's not eaten on a regular basis. And it was just so wonderful. And that was great. When I think of Dominican generosity, I also go back to, this popped up on my Facebook memories about a week ago, I think. And when I was in the Dominican Republic for the first time, I made friends with a man named Julie. And I got really close with his children, who were students at the school that we were volunteering at. And Julie was so nice. I mean, everyone was his friend. He didn't speak English, and a lot of our team didn't speak Spanish. So he really, I think that was sad for him that he couldn't make friends with all of us. So those of us who spoke some Spanish, he really latched onto, and he told the best stories. And he was just so much fun. And he worked kind of as a guard at the school. So he opened the gate and closed the gate. So he was the first face that we would see in the morning. And he was just always so happy. And one morning, I remember he brought a muffin. And he handed me this muffin. And he said, "You are the kindest American I have ever met. And I wanted to give you this muffin to express my gratitude for your friendship." And I was like, oh my gosh, the kindest American he's ever met. And I went to my team and I was like, I have this muffin. And my friend Will was like, yeah, did Julie tell you you were the kindest American he'd ever met? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, he said the same thing to me. And Will held up his muffin. He also had a muffin. And I was like, oh, did he give everyone muffins? And the rest of the team was like, no, it was just you and Will. Just the two of you got muffins. So he had brought 2 muffins, and he had picked us to be the recipients of these muffins. And I just thought that was so sweet. He'd known us for like 2 days, and yet in the morning on his way walking to work, he's like, I'm going to get them some muffins at the Colmado to show them that I care about them. And also in my experience working with the kids there, they would always try to feed us. Always. They would bring their pesos to buy like popcorn or things, and they were consistently trying to feed us. And they're just so sweet and so giving with food, and especially with affection. I never went to the doctor's office alone when I was in the Dominican. I went with several different people, but somebody always, even if they had to take off work, somebody would go with me, because they were like, you shouldn't go to the doctor alone. Even if it was just for something, a routine checkup, they were like, you shouldn't go alone. I'll go with you. So there was just this really, generosity and love and kind of Christian service are just all parts of it, and they don't question it. That's just how it's always been for them. And coming from an individualistic culture like the United States, that seems weird for us. And we're kind of taught not to ask for help. outside of your family, you don't ask for help. That's considered weakness. But if we look in the Bible, there are so many instances of people asking for help and taking care of each other, and these communities that form. And in the Dominican, that I've found that to be so true. And the generosity is just really, really amazing in a way that you don't see in the United States.
Um, I know your favorite Christian song is Reckless Love.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, your appreciation for that song came about the time that you were in the Dominican Republic the first time?
Yes. Yeah, so that song was topping the charts around that time, was part of it. So the school that we volunteered at back when I was in university, the children were not allowed to listen to secular music. They only listened to Christian music. So our music that we listened to while we were working was also Christian. Even in English, the school asked us to please only listen to Christian music. So we listened to a lot of Christian music. Not a lot of us had cell service there because we were broke college students and we didn't want to pay for an international plan. So from what I remember, I think we were limited to the songs that were on Allie's iPhone. So we listened to like the same 15 songs on repeat. But Reckless Love was a big one. And I think when I was in the DR, it just really, really hit me. Loving recklessly, what does that look like? I think in our culture, we're taught to conserve our love like it's a limited resource. Like we can only love so many people and you don't want to give it to the wrong person. You don't want to love someone who doesn't deserve it. But in the DR, I saw so much reckless love. So much so in the Spanish language, there's multiple ways to say I love you because there's so many different ways of expressing love. Whereas in our culture, we have put such a strong emphasis on romantic love that we shy away from platonic love, from community love, from familial love. And I was just really inspired by that idea of, to love Christ is to love others. And that loving others is good. Loving isn't something that we should be scared of. And, I built these relationships, my first couple trips with kids that I'd spent 4 days with. And when it was time to go, they would throw our arms around us and say, I love you. And I said it back because, yeah, I did love them. And there's so many people now that I'm not afraid to say I love you because in that culture, it helped me to not be afraid of saying I love you in the way that we are conditioned to in the United States, to just love recklessly. I've also heard the term love wastefully. And just, love is not a finite resource. We can just love all the time, all the people. And I think that, we also, as churches, we can get caught up in, we just need to love the people inside our doors. And that's not going to work either. We have to love everyone, inside the church, outside the church, all places. Being the big C church, right, means loving recklessly, loving wastefully. Also, it's just a great song. It's got some great chords. It's really fantastic. And everyone should give it a listen. I can't, at the moment, I can't think of the artist's name, but I'm sure most people listening to this will know what song we're talking about because a couple of years ago, it was the every other song on Christian radio.
I have included it in our playlists for our YouTube worship resources. So anyone who has watched all of our resources has heard the song.
Excellent. It's such a good song. And I think it helps to kind of think about your relationship with God too, and how much God loves us. And that God loves us recklessly, to think of like something that's reckless, it has the potential of not paying off. And God loves us even when there's a high potential of that not paying off. He does it anyways. And we love because he first loved us. And that love is reckless. I mean, he loves us even when it doesn't seem like it would be a great idea. He loves us. And we should return that favor to our communities.
Thank you so much for speaking to the congregation today and sharing with us your experience and how your work furthers the work and mission of our church, and also how these experiences have formed your faith. Really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you for the invite. It was really wonderful. I love the chance to talk about my experiences, to talk about global ministries. I definitely encourage anyone who thinks they might be interested in service to check out Global Ministries. We have so many awesome programs for young people, programs for anyone of all ages really can get involved with Global Ministries. And I know actually it was Pastor T who first brought up the ministry that Global Ministries was doing in the Dominican Republic. And so sometimes that's all it takes to just plant the seed, is to just be like, hey, I heard that there's this thing called Global Ministries and maybe you could check it out. And so my program that I'm in, again, was our Global Mission Interns. So we take young people who've just finished college. And a lot of us are kind of like, okay, I finished my degree, but I have no idea what happens next. And it gives this like awesome opportunity to kind of check out the world. But it's a sheltered experience because you're going into these already well-established communities that are so loving and caring, and so ready to receive you and teach you. It was a great learning experience. And I think that's one of the biggest things to remember is we go to serve, but we also go to learn. That's the best thing you can do, is to just learn, to just ask questions, to be like, why? Why does that? I don't understand. Sometimes that can lead to the best conversations and the best things to learn. So I recommend that everyone check out Global Ministries. Also, if you want to do some traveling while you're cooped up in your house, there's been some virtual pilgrimages that they have available on the website, as well as you can check out newsletters. We still have coworkers all around the world doing their work, even in this COVID crisis. We've still got feet on the ground doing the good work, and I encourage you, we've got some new newsletter articles that should be coming out soon, so you can check out what's going on in all corners of the world with Global Ministries. And I hope that today my presentation was just a small snapshot of some of the work that Global Ministries does.
And Global Ministries is funded through Disciples Mission Fund?
Yes.
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 Which our special offerings for Easter go to Disciples Mission Fund, and our church, through our tithing, gives regular giving to the Disciples Mission Fund.
Yes. Excellent point. Yes. Also, our GMI program is funded by Week of Compassion. So the GMI program runs off of the word is escaping me, but through Week of Compassion has money set aside specifically for the Global Mission Intern experience. So Global Ministries is really just so many people coming together to create global ministries beyond just the Disciples of Christ in the United Church of Christ. It's different ministries within those churches. It's different individual churches getting involved. But it's a really, really cool program. And it's also a national program, which is an awesome thing too. So our GMIs, we have GMIs from, let's see, California, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, Texas, Arizona, Missouri, all over. We also have coworkers from Canada. So it's not just a nationwide, it's an international mission, which is also awesome because in itself, there's so much to be learned from just other people in the organization. And Global Ministries isn't the only cool ministry going on within the Disciples. So I recommend everyone to check out all of the great things the Disciples has going on. And especially, Global Ministries is mostly an international outreach ministry, but we also have so many national inreach ministries going on. And especially right now in this kind of period of crisis, both nationally and internationally, I recommend you to check out all of those awesome ministries, and maybe you might feel a tug and be like, I could be a part of that. I think I could help with that. And you might meet some cool new people and learn a lot of fun new things.
And Week of Compassion, we support through our Week of Compassion special offering in February.
Yes.
Yeah.
Week of Compassion does good stuff.
Yes. They're more disaster relief. Is that correct?
Yes, that is my understanding. They do a lot of things, but a lot of disaster relief ministries is connected to Week of Compassion. And yeah, you'll see a lot of things will come out through Disciples channels that are Week of Compassion. So that's also another great ministry to check out and see if maybe there's something you can do to get involved with that ministry. Because right now, everything's virtual, so you can get involved in a lot of ministries from your couch. So there's not a lot of risk involved at the moment. We won't send you to a foreign country. Right now, we'll just send you to the kitchen table. And you can see how you feel about it there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop the screen share.